Jack, how we doing?
Mr. Sullivan, what's happening, my friend? How are you?
I'm hanging in there. Following up on my NHL free agency. Just enjoying a bit of a blowout right now in the Dodgers game, but enjoying a weird time. I always find October to be the best month for sports, and in the age of COVID, we don't have hockey, hockey starting up. We don't have the NBA starting up. We have both
hmm
of them ending. So I think it's a weird time in all of our lives, but excited to be back and finally getting to talk sports again.
Yeah,
It was
absolutely,
it
man.
was a long summer.
Thank you for taking the time tonight to come on the show. We appreciate it. For those of you who don't know, Ryan Sullivan and myself spent 4 years together at the University of Rhode Island, broadcast partners for the URI hockey team, really since freshman year. So we've had a lot of time on the air. We co-hosted Two Stupid Pucks on RIU2. Spent some time on the WRIU sports talk show, the Sport Power Half Hour. So that's the history there.
Absolutely.
Sully, before we get started with the hockey talk, you just said you're watching baseball. Are you okay, dude?
I had I'm having a full mental breakdown, dude. I am an absolute puddle. No, it's on in the background. Just gotta have something on. Hockey's
Sure.
not going to be on for a while. There's no football, and I mean this to me is the kind of baseball game that I like. The kind where the pitchers are irrelevant.
Yeah, true.
So
Very true. Hey, I got to give you credit. You got to try it, right? Um,
absolutely.
we'll start with your Boston Bruins because they have made a lot of noise in the free agent market specifically, and a lot of noise that you don't like. You don't like the noise that they're
No.
making right now. Explain that to me.
So Don Sweeney has a lot of explaining to do. A lot of explaining to do. The Bruins entered this this new off season rather with a tad bit over $15 million in cap space. And they didn't have a lot of key pieces walking out the door, save Torrey Krug. That's a given.
Mhm.
But your other losses there are Joakim Nordstrom, who is a fourth line special teams guy. I'm never going to get bent out of shape about that. And then you have a couple of RFAs here and there, and then some people who are up and down between Providence and Boston who might be, could be roster pieces, but probably not. Where he has a lot of explaining to do is the fact that the Bruins had $15 million in cap space on the first day of free agency, and they didn't make a move. You could have re-signed Krug. Pietrangelo was on the market. Taylor Hall was on the market. And even if you're not going after those blue chip pieces, you have some more depth pieces in there, like a Mike Hoffman, who, to Sweeney's credit, is still available, and the Bruins are pursuing him. You have your, Tyler Toffoli, who's no longer on the market. Sweeney hasn't done anything, and this Bruins team, I'll remind you, won the President's Trophy this year. They lost their power play quarterback. They've brought in no one to replace him on the blue line. They've brought in no one on the depth side of things over on the forwards aspect. You brought in Craig Smith, who's a good signing, half decent, again, good third liner. I'd argue the Bruins have the best third line in the league at this point, but you've still not addressed the two holes in the roster. That second line right wing and a top pairing defenseman. Who are the Bruins going to pair up with Charlie McAvoy? Matt Grzelcyk? Brandon Carlo, who's also a right shot defenseman? Sweeney has a lot of explaining to do.
Yeah, I like that you brought up the Craig Smith point because my thinking so far for the Bruins is that's the one solid piece that he's added,
Totally.
and it brings some depth. But yeah, you lose Torrey Krug. He's to the Blues for 7-year, $45.5 million. So that's a huge loss there.
Small deal.
Craig Smith, a solid 3-year, $9.3 million contract that doesn't fork over a ton. But you had some pretty valuable names out there. I know you sent me that that little article that Henrik Lundqvist could be a target for the Boston Bruins. It just seems, I mean, they made some stink today. Jakob Zaboreal, Callum Booth, and Greg McKegg himself. Though that's the
McKegg, Rangers guy.
That's the most recent noise that they've had. Just going through October 12th, they didn't do anything. October 11th, they didn't do anything. Craig Smith was signed on the 10th. That was pretty much it. Of course, they don't organize it by team, but that's fine.
Yeah.
But you're 100% right. There's a defensive issue with this team right now, right? There's huge holes that you need to pick and plug, especially losing Krug. The assumption is Chara's going to be around for next year, right? He's probably going to stick around.
In all likelihood, when after the season, there were some questions on if Chara was going to retire or not, kind of what that was going to look like. And obviously, he has said, he wants to make his, he wants to continue with the Bruins. So if the Bruins want to bring him back and they want to go ahead and do so, I would imagine the Bruins would definitely go ahead and bring him back. I can't imagine him going somewhere else. Now, it was reported on the first day of free agency that his agent received offers where, teams such as, I believe Minnesota was one of the teams that kicked tires on Chara, if memory serves me correct. I can't see Chara going anywhere. I'd imagine if the Bruins say, hey, Z, thanks for the years, but we're going to move on, I would imagine he would just call it a career at that point. I mean, he had a fairly quiet year this year. But Chara is no longer a top pairing defenseman. Mm-hmm. He's not. And it worries me for a team that won the President's Trophy last year and won it by and large on the back of Torrey Krug, who the Bruins have the second best power play in the league. I'd argue that Krug is the best power play quarterback in the league, either him or, I hesitate to call Ovechkin a power play quarterback because he's not a defenseman. He's not anchoring the blue line the way Krug was. But obviously Ovi is a premier power play piece in the league. But I digress. I don't see how the Bruins can lose Torrey Krug, still have, after the signings they've made, have over $11 million in space to lock up on realistically three players, Chara, Grzelcyk, and DeBrusk, and go into that season with the expectation of we're going to be a top team. Mm-hmm. Most of this division has gotten better. The Lightning are obviously going to have to sell off some key pieces. I'm going to wait to see what they do with Sergachev. The same with the Maple Leafs. I'm going to be very interested to see what happens with William Nylander if they keep him around, paying $6 million on a flat cap for a second line winger. Not the greatest. No. But you look around the rest of the division. Most of the division's gotten better. Buffalo got better with Hall. Montreal got Tyler Toffoli. More on that in a bit. Mm-hmm. And you also go ahead and look at Florida, who I think moved rather laterally. They obviously went ahead and they brought in Radko Gudas, which increases their defensive core. Sure. They did lose Mike Hoffman. They lost Dadonov. Again, both of those are Bruins targets. I'd love to see both of them in a stripes in a 8-spoke sweater next year. But I mean, as far as it goes, the Bruins really haven't done anything this offseason, and I would be hard pressed to find the Bruins being anything other than the third seed in the Atlantic, if that. Yeah.
So I apologize about that. I just dropped my phone on the table.
You can't be doing that, man.
I know.
Poor etiquette.
This was such a huge. And I'm just looking at the names, the people that got moved around in this particular free agency period, even with the flat cap. It's really interesting. And this was kind of like a do or die situation for the Bruins because, you needed to be all in, right? You have this recipe for success. Obviously, maybe if COVID doesn't happen, they're able to carry that through the postseason. They keep everything rolling. But that's a case that we'll never get to see. That's a situation we'll never get to be a part of. They needed to make a strong move, especially in the defensive core, and they haven't done that. And I think they missed out on those pieces, whether that's re-signing Krug. I know you said that it probably wasn't going to happen. Kevin Shattenkirk was available. Not going to happen. Obviously, probably like a left-handed player to go along with Krug, but even Pietrangelo was available. Big names of the defensive line that you could arguably put as your number one D-man, right-handed, and the Bruins didn't snap at them. So that's I think those are some big names that they could have made some noise around, but they just couldn't do it.
So the one that bothered, and first things first, going back to the Bruins core, Don Sweeney has had this Bruins roster in his hands now since 2015, right? His first major action with the Bruins was that 2015 draft where some people can say, DeBrusque's an NHL player. He broke in 2 years after the draft, so that was a good pick. I'm going to go the other way with it and say the Bruins whiffed on 3 consecutive picks because the Bruins picked the left wing, right wing, and a defenseman. The next 3 picks were Brock Besser, Kyle Connor, and Thomas Chabot. I mean, I don't see how you can look at those 3 players and say that Sweeney hit on any of those picks when those were the next 3 guys taken. But I digress. The Bruins are now this core is on the wrong side of 30. Bergeron is 34. Krejci is 33. Marchand is 31. Those are your big name players in there, and they're not. I mean, and if you want to go back to the goal crease, Tuukka Rask. Tuukka Rask is also on the wrong side of 30. I believe he's 32 right now, if I'm not mistaken. So I look at this roster and say, you need to go all in, and they haven't done anything. And the one move that pisses me off above anything else, and it seems so trivial, is Nate Schmidt. Nate Schmidt is in Vancouver right now on a fairly friendly deal. Nate Schmidt is a top pairing defenseman. He's a left shot defenseman. Vancouver got him for a 3rd-round pick. For a 3rd-round pick, you don't mean to tell me Don Sweeney can't go up and call the Vegas Golden Knights and say, hey, we'll give you a 2nd-round pick. Because that guy, is he the solution long-term going forwards? No, probably not. But I believe he's at 5 and change on a deal. Maybe it might be a little bit more than 6 and change. Again, I'll have to go ahead and verify that. But the point still stands. It's not an overwhelming contract, and he's a top – if he's not top 2, he's definitely top 4 pairing defenseman. And, it's a 6-year, $36 million deal, so that's pretty close to a 6 and 6 right there. Just had it below 36, rather. And the Bruins don't go and get him. I mean, that right there is the roster stuff that's going to drive me up the wall, where you have this core, you are in a win-now phase. The Bruins window is no larger than 2 years. You win a cup this year or the season after, and after that, Bergeron's 37. His contract is up. Marchand's contract is up. He's just shy of 35. After that, Tuukka's up as well after that. After that, you are in a rebuilding phase. You have a 2-year window to work with here, and I'm not saying mortgage in the future. I am not saying trade every first-round pick you have, because you have some young talent. You have Pastrnak. You have, Vakanainen, who's projected to be a top pairing defenseman in the league. You have, obviously, Charlie McAvoy, who is elite already on the back end. But these moves by Don Sweeney and his inability to bring in top talent to this team is frightening.
So a big yikes for the Bruins so far in free agency. I don't know how they're going to get better. How do they get out of this? Because I feel like a lot of the big names are already gone. But in your opinion, which team has done the best so far? From your knowledge, what you've seen, what team has won the free agency period so far?
I don't think there's any question. It's the Colorado Avalanche. The Colorado Avalanche have made a myriad of moves where they've gone ahead and got better players. They just got Devon Taves out of New York for 2 second-round picks. You didn't lose a first-rounder. So now your defensive core consists of Cale Makar, Devon Taves, and they have plenty of other talent back there. I was going to say Tyson Barrie. That would be incorrect. But they have plenty of talent back there. I mean, you got to remember, this season they went down 3-1 against the Dallas Stars. In the Western Conference semifinals, without their goaltender. Grubauer was hurt. They pushed that series to 7 games and lost in overtime with Hutchinson in net. Hutchinson got cut from the Maple Leafs this year. Cut! They waived him. Oh my God! Terrible goaltender. And they brought him there. Not only that, but they get Brandon Saad out of Colorado, and they made Colorado retain salary to get him out of there. To me, there's no question. Colorado has the best team, and you look at the rest of their roster. Rantanen, you have McKinnon on your top-end guys. You obviously have Nazem Kadri up there, who's had a career resurgence. I don't see how Colorado doesn't win a Stanley Cup in the next 3 years. They are filthy. They're getting better. They are young. They have cap flexibility for now. The flat cap, that's going to screw them over in a couple short years. But Nathan McKinnon's probably on the best value deal in the NHL. Him right alongside Pastrnak and Bergeron, all in the $6 million, all being, I'd say, top 5, if not top 3 players of their positions in the league. They are going to be a dangerous team in the moves they've made this offseason. Joe Sakic, he is not only a Hall of Fame player, he is a Hall of Fame general manager. He has been excellent this offseason.
Your thoughts, Henrik Lundqvist to the Washington Capitals on a 1-year, $1.5 million deal.
I think so. I love Henrik Lundqvist. Like, as a Bruins fan, just kind of watching him, from, I don't just want to say from the shadows, but watching him from afar, he is a fun guy to watch. And obviously, Jack, you and I have had our arguments in the past on where he ranks in the echelon of NHL goalies. And I know that we don't agree there, but he is, without a doubt, a first ballot Hall of Fame NHL goaltender. He is excellent. I look at that deal and say, okay, this is great. He's probably not going to be the starter. Samsonov down there, there's a reason the Capitals picked him in the first round back in 2015. And if memory serves me correct, Samsonov, goalies obviously take a longer time to develop, unless you're picking a goalie, first overall, like you did at Rick DiPietro. That worked well. Or a Marc-Andre Fleury. But still, you look at those players, and they usually take more time to develop. Now he's getting ready. And he looked, by and large, better than Holtby this season. Now, Holtby's certainly had regression over the last few years. But I look at that goalie tandem of 1 and 2. I kind of view that as akin to Rask and Halak. I think that Samsonov is going to become a premier goalie in this league, much like Tuukka Rask has. Tuukka Rask was also a first-round selection. Took him a few years to break into the league, but since then he has been really one of the best goalies in the league. I think Samsonov is well within that track. And, you look at Lundqvist, and, Lundqvist is going to play a Halak role where he had a starting role. He lost the starting role as he kind of progressed through his career. Now he's a backup, but that is a damn good backup to have. So I look at that, and I think this is a prove-it deal for him. He wants to go ahead and chase his cup. That is a great team to go ahead and do it with, Alex Ovechkin, Nick Backstrom over there, obviously John Carlson. That is a good team that's, I want to say a middle-aged team that's not, I think, appropriate, but the talent on that team resembles much of the Bruins, largely on the wrong side of 30. But veteran leadership that has recently won a cup, that's something that Lundqvist is in dire need of, considering that he has gotten absolutely no scoring support over his years in New York, as you well know. I look at Henrik Lundqvist to go ahead and, with the more rest that he'll be getting over on that team, really boosting that team up and, being a key piece to going ahead and helping that team get an extra, 5-6 wins, be on top of the Metro division at the end of the season, and push that team into a playoff spot.
Does Taylor Hall still have it in him? Did Buffalo come away with that signing with a steal, or are they just reaching for something that's non-existent?
Well, there's one winner in this trade and there's one loser in this trade. And the sad thing is we don't know which is which yet. Because you look at this in one of two ways. One, Taylor Hall goes over there. He's going to be playing with Jack Eichel. I would not be surprised to see both those players put up 100 points this year. You have your matches made in heaven. You have your Draisaitl and McDavid. You have your, perfection line, as we call it here in Boston. You have Malkin and Crosby, or, Crosby and Gensel. There's an army of you that you can use. You look at that and say, okay, this is going to be a great deal for Taylor Hall. You also look at it, though, and say, okay, this is a 1-year deal. You got to remember, he's been traded twice. He's a first overall pick. He did not re-sign in Arizona, a team that made the playoffs, like legitimately made the playoffs, won their play-in round, got to the playoffs this year. What is he trying? And he said, he wanted to go to contender. What is he hoping to win in Buffalo? The freaking draft lottery? What else do they have? Who's their goalie? Carter Hutton? Like, I don't look at that and say, okay, you're trying to win here. I look at that for Buffalo and say, hey, we're better. But Buffalo hasn't gotten above 90 points in the last 9 seasons. They have been, the highest they finished in the Atlantic Division has been 6th place since realignment. And you know what? I'll give them credit. 2 of those were shortened seasons. So maybe that's unfair to the team to say that, they haven't gotten above 90 points in so long. Point still stands, though. Hall's not going to put him onto a playoff run. So if Hall really likes it there, fantastic. I think this deal is a win for Taylor Hall because he's going to be able to pad his stats and convince teams that he's worth, a 6, 7, maybe 8-year deal. He was only drafted 10 years ago, so he's only 28, 29 now. He can go ahead and get one more big paycheck. For Buffalo, it helps for one season. If he wants to stick around, great. The only thing I see this moving them from the 25th worst team in the NHL to like the worst case scenarios position. being the 18th or 19th worst team in the league, where you get a mid-first round pick, but you're still not in the playoffs.
And at that point, you probably don't even want to go for that. They haven't made out too many other Let's see. Taylor Hall, obviously their big name.
They brought back Brandon. Make no mistake, they've improved. They brought back Brandon Montour.
Sure.
They also brought in Cody. They also brought in Cody
Eakin. Yeah, that was the other name.
And as division rival, that's something they have to pay attention to. But I still don't look. I mean, can you name me what their defensive core looks like? Can you name me what their bottom pairing forwards look like? That's still, now that you have Taylor Hall in the mix, Rasmus Dahlin developing nicely. Now you have someone to play alongside Jack Eichel.
Oh, I think we lost Sully for a second. Let's see. Sully? Oh, we lost them. We lost them. No! We'll get him back up here in a second, folks. Oh, no. He was on a good tangent, too. That's gonna... Oh!
Well, that was harsh. I mean, I didn't think my take was that bad.
Sorry, I lost you on your audio cut out. I don't know what happened. Sometimes this computer gets on its... whatever. It's trash.
No worries. As I was saying... I just don't see how Buffalo really got that much better. Do they have some better pieces in place now? Yeah, sure, they absolutely do. Are they going to finish in the cellar of the NHL this year? No, absolutely not. They still have a way to go before competing. I mean, I still look at that, those depth forwards, those special teams. There's not much to like there, especially on the penalty kill side of things. Their goaltending is still largely suspect. They've had no good goaltenders since Ryan Miller left the organization. And you still look at that roster and say, all right, this is not a playoff team. This is a team that's going to get to, like I said, they maybe 10 points below a playoff spot, but that's the worst position to be in, where you're close enough to taste it. You're not going to get there. And now you have, the 14th, 13th overall pick in the draft.
Before we let you go, Sully, I want to say thank you for coming on the show. Our next segment, I'm going to talk about the significance that is URI and PC not playing this year. What are your thoughts on the fact that they won't be playing?
I mean, I think they're chickens. I mean, URI, correct me if I'm wrong, I say I've been out of the school for 2 years now. 3-1 against Big East teams in the last couple seasons, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you look at a team like URI, a team that's, I mean, I keep saying we. I'm sorry, I'm a homer, I'll admit it.
Hey, you paid thousands and thousands of dollars to go to that university. As far as I'm concerned, you were a part of that team. As much as I am.
It's we. I paid for those scholarships. Damn it. Anyways, I go ahead and look at those rosters, especially URI, and you look there and say, boy, this team got better. Of course, the NCAA granted waivers to nearly everybody, so there's everyone who transferred is going to have an opportunity to play this year. But URI, they got the Martin brothers in. You have the transfer coming over from Syracuse. Fats Russell is coming back. Did you go ahead and lose your big man, Sorrell? Yes. Did you go ahead and lose? I'd say who's your team leader in Jeff Doughton? Yes. And obviously Jeff Doughton had I think we can call a spade here, a pretty disappointing senior year based on what he did during his junior campaign. But I mean, the schools are 25 minutes apart. You can schedule Farley Dickinson, but you can't schedule URI. Sorry, that's a bitch move. That is a bitch. I am running scared. This is not a game I want to play move. And I'm sorry. I don't see how you can't work it out to get the logistics to play 25 minutes away. I mean, forget the Dunkin' Donuts Center or the Ryan Center. There's not like a public basketball court you can play this game in and just set a TV up and play. Doesn't LaSalle have a basketball court? Doesn't Roger Williams? Like, you can't get the logistics going? Oh, my God, please, Jack. You and I played pickup basketball all the time. We never had a hard hard time finding in sport. What do you mean the logistics aren't going to work? That's my thought on that. It's cowardly for Providence College to back out of this game with a division rival where it sells out the Ryan Center and even the Dunk is packed for that game. It's a disservice to the people of Rhode Island.
There it is. Laying down the hammer, as always, Ryan Sullivan. You came in. You were under control. It was all PG-13. I know you were worried about one or two things slipping out, but you were good, man. All good.
I appreciate it. Does that mean I should just drop an F-bomb now just for continuity sake?
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time we've heard hear you say something like that on the air. It's all right. It all happens to the best.
Thanks for that, buddy.
Hey, Sully, thanks for coming on. We'll see you on Saturday, right? We're gonna link up.
Yeah, man. See you Saturday, and I look forward to again. I don't know if you're coming out on the links with us. If you are, just don't stand to my left. I'm shanking it a whole lot recently.
You got it.
But other than that, look forward to connecting with you soon, Jack.
Awesome, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Captain.
Peace.